Welcome to investiNate, where we break down true cases from the perspective of the investigators who work them. On June 6, 2010, tragedy struck the city of Hialeah. An armed individual opened fire in a restaurant, killing 4, wounding 3 before taking his own life. It was one of the most tragic shootings in the city's history. Joining me today is former police detective in Hialeah and current state of Florida Detective Lieutenant Ozzy Estrada. He was the lead investigator assigned to the case. In today's episode, we'll break down the case, the scene, and the investigation that followed. Ozzy, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be here today. First, I just want to get to know you a little bit. Matter of fact, first, I have a gift I want to give to you. You seem a little surprised.
I am very surprised, but okay.
I'm a gift giver, Ozzy. So this is just a little gift just to say thank you for, first, if you don't know, Ozzy's actually my boss. So thank you for being a good boss. And also thank you for your years of service. Ozzy, you don't have to open it right now. I hate when people open gifts in front of me. You can open it later.
Thank you, Nathaniel.
But first, I want to start off by getting to know you a little bit and give the audience a chance to get to know you as well. So why don't you first start by telling us, first, how many years of law enforcement experience do you actually have?
I'm entering my 30th year of law enforcement.
Okay. And you started with Hialeah Police Department.
Yes, in 1995.
1995.
Yes.
Wow. I was actually just 2 years old at the time. So when I was 2 years old, you just became a cop. And so what exactly drew you to law enforcement?
Oh, goodness. That's a loaded question, but basically just wanting to serve and help the people and the citizenry in the place that I grew up in. I was born and raised in Hialeah, so it sounds cliche, but I just really, truly wanted to give back in the best way that I could. My father, he worked for the city and retired from the city, not in the police capacity, but in the sanitation service. So I saw that he made a relatively prosperous, not prosperous, but a relatively good living, supported his family.
Yeah.
And I figured it's a good way to give back to the community and also provide for the family that I had at the time.
Did you grow up watching cop shows? Did you?
I did actually. Miami Vice, Chips, all that type of stuff I grew up watching, and never in a million years did I think that I would ever become a police officer. It's just one of those things that, I don't know, like, you've heard me say a million times, the Lord puts you where he wants you, and he just wanted me there, I guess.
Yeah. Hey, another thing I want to touch on is, so you started off as a patrol officer, and then you became a detective. Walk me through that process. First, for those who don't know, what exactly is the process for a police officer to become a detective and all that?
Well, even before that, I was part of the first crew, the first class of public service aides in the city of Hialeah. It was a pilot program I was honored and to be a part of. And then after about 2 years there, they sponsored my academy class, and then I became an officer, where I was an officer on the road for about 3 years.
Okay.
During that time, I was a training officer in the honor guard, a variety of other collateral assignments and stuff. But basically just, for the first 3 years, just patrolling, answering calls. And
Now, did you know that you wanted to be a detective? Because many people go into patrol and that's where they want to stay. But did you always know that you wanted to become a detective?
I did. Seeing, as a patrolman, you respond to the call, you take the report, and the report gets sent up to Detective Bureau, D Bureau, and you kind of sort of don't know how the story ends. You write the first chapters, but you're not there for the conclusion. And I've always been curious. To this day, I'm still curious. And I like to see things from start to finish. So I knew that the ascension, or the lateral ascension, from patrolman to Detective Bureau was something that was definitely going to happen.
Now, walk me through the process. Is there tests that you take? Are there multiple patrol officers applying for the same detective spot?
I can only talk to you about how it was in Hialeah, but it was merit-based, hard and soft measures. The number of arrests, number of reports you wrote, citations. Back then, we're talking 2000, 2001. All that was factored into it, and you had to get recommendations from your immediate supervisors.
Gotcha. Now, what would you say makes a great detective?
Ooh. Well, again, that's a multifaceted question. If a vice detective or a narcotics detective would have to be able to insert himself into that world and pretty much become what he is trying to apprehend. A good vice guy, a good narcotics guy has to be one of the people, and you have to be willing to trust him in order to buy or sell narcotics or contraband from him. So in that case, a crimes persons detective, homicide, special victims, domestic violence, empathy. You have to be able to connect with your victims and make them believe, which it should be easy, but make them believe that that their crime is the most important thing that you're dealing with at that time. You may have a caseload of 20 and stuff like that, but as long as you make that connection with them, so empathy, the ability to communicate at a level that they can understand, not talk over them, not talk under them, but just right. A crimes person, a crimes property detective, or a fraud detective, white collar, it would be advantageous if they had a grasp of numbers and finances and how money works and flows and stuff like that. So again, it depends what facet or what direction of detective you want to be or you want to pursue. Different qualities and different characteristics would make a good detective.
Now, we were talking about this earlier. You told me that special victims was your favorite area to work in. Why is that?
Well, special victims was the best work I've ever done as a police officer, and that encompassed crimes against children, crimes against the elderly, crimes against the vulnerable. Those victims truly had a limited voice and needed an advocate. A crime against a child is just it's inexcusable, actually, and putting somebody away or apprehending a subject who has committed a crime against a child or vulnerable adults or a disabled person, that's just the highest of the highs. But also referring back to that empathy, all crime leaves some sort of scar, and when a child victims, elderly victims and stuff, that's just somewhere else. I wish I could explain it, or it's just emotional. It's very emotional.
Yeah. Now, tell me a little bit more about Hialeah. Now, you said you grew up there and you wanted to stay there and give back to the community. For those who don't know, South Florida is a little bit different than the rest of the United States. And then Hialeah is a lot different than the rest of the United States.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit more about Hialeah. What is it like? What is it like policing in Hialeah?
Hialeah, I believe at the time while I was working there, was the 5th or 6th largest state per population in the state of Florida. And we share a border with the city of Miami. The population in Hialeah at the time fluctuated over 250,000 to, at the peak of traffic, we'd have well over 750,000 people within the city boundaries at the time. And this is before the annexation and before the expansion, because since I've left, they have expanded. But it's blue collar. It's it's a tight knit community in the sense that overwhelmingly over 95% of the population is Hispanic. The majority of those Hispanics come from or have a connection to Cuba. So it's like it was patrolling and policing my own people. You know, I don't know if that. So it sometimes it made it easier to connect and to relate to the struggles that they were feeling when they called the police. I mean, I have to remember that when you call the police, it's never for a good thing. Nobody ever calls 911 to say, "Hey, officer, you just wanted to say thank you. This is a great job. Great job you're doing." You know, that doesn't happen. People call the police sometimes, most of the time, on their worst day, or during something that's very bad that's happening to them. So, having been born and raised in Hialeah, I was able to connect with them on a familiar level right off the bat. There was the building rapport and trying to gain confidence was already pretty much there because I was one of them and stuff. I'm fluent in Spanish, obviously, so the communication was immediate. I didn't have to wait on a translator or anything like that.
Now I gotta ask, if do you have to speak Spanish to work in Hialeah as an officer?
No, absolutely not. There's plenty of translating support available.
Okay. Now, in terms of crimes and types of crimes, how is it different in Hialeah than city of Miami or Coral Gables, or what makes, I guess, or what types of crimes does Hialeah see more often?
I mean, again, I can only speak to my time in Hialeah. I don't know what the city of Miami or Coral Gables or any of the neighboring cities or municipalities were dealing with. But I do remember back in my day, there was a lot of car thefts, there was a lot of burglaries. Property crime was a big deal, and domestic violence, unfortunately, was also, I don't want to say prevalent, but there was more than enough of it. And I would think due to the fact that there's so many people in such a concentrated area. I mean, it's not just one family living in a single family home. It's a single family home that's been subdivided 2 or 3 times, usually into efficiencies. So you have 7, 8 people living in a space that was intended to be for 3 or 4. So that would tend to create friction or animosity between not only the neighbors, but also the regular struggles of a family within a budding family and an efficiency. Somebody wants a bigger house, somebody wants to move, can't do it right now. That would create some type of impetus for an argument, and unfortunately, sometimes arguments get out of control.
Which takes us to this case. So on June 6, 2010, an armed individual opens fire at Yoyito Restaurant. Am I saying that right?
Yoyito's. Yeah.
Yoyito's Restaurant. And kills 4, injures 3, and then takes his own life. If you can just kind of help me dissect what's going on in those calls, and then we'll get into the case.
Sure. There's somebody that's obviously the caller is terrified, and she's saying that a person is shooting and killing all of their employees at the restaurant.
Wow.
She's saying the man entered and killed everybody. That's it. Begging the police to respond with urgency. Urgencia is urgency, which means like we need them here now.
Okay, so whenever you guys get those types of calls. First, I mean, walk me through a little bit of the 911 responders, the call takers. What's going through their mind? I mean, first, I mean, they're speaking Spanish, right? So I assume
Yes.
most of the call takers probably speak Spanish
Yes,
in a
I
city
would-
like Hialeah.
I would imagine, yes, yeah.
Okay, so now walk me through the police response here. So, I mean, this probably multiple calls are going out. What happens in Hialeah Police Department?
The call gets routed from a call taker to the dispatcher with the notes of the call, the address, and the level of priority. Priority one, obviously, lights and sirens need everybody to go. Usually on shootings, on priority calls, you'd automatically send a primary and a backup, but on a shooting call, you're sending a primary and several backups, lights and sirens, to get there as quick and safely as possible.
Okay, and walk me through what's going through the officers' minds. I mean, do a lot of shooting calls, at least when you were there a lot of shooting calls in Hialeah?
Yes, toward the beginning, toward the mid '90s, yeah, they were still running and gunning.
Okay, so you could say it was pretty common then.
It wasn't uncommon, let's put it that way.
And so what's going through the first responding officers? What's going through their minds?
And I would imagine it's for any responding officer going lights and sirens to a priority call, a shooting in this case, is you already know that you're going into a hot situation. You're going into a dangerous situation. Forget the fact that you're going lights and sirens at a mile an hour, trying to get there, but you get sort of tunnel visioned, which you shouldn't, but you do, being honest. You just want to get there. Several times throughout my career, I've been to hot calls and I have no memory or recollection of how I got there or the path that I took. Just focused on getting to the scene. And I would think and hope that most officers, already knowing that the call involves a gun, already have their security and their safety heightened up. They're already thinking, I'm going into a hot zone. What do I need to do to negotiate or navigate this call safely? Who are my backups? How far are they coming from? Am I going to have to deal with this alone for 20, 30 seconds, a minute? All of those things are running, should be running through your head.
So you're trying to slow it down a little bit and you're kind of coaching yourself and prepping yourself for what you're about to encounter.
With time and experience, you should be able to slow it down and already start formulating a plan. You could start already coordinating a response. If it's a shooting and there's confirmed somebody's down, rescue is going to be standing by. They're not going to move in to a scene until the police say it's clear for them to do so. But you can have them standing by. If it's a hot call with somebody down, you can already start requesting more assistance, more backup. You're going to need a supervisor. You're going to need a crime scene. You can pretty much, again, all that comes with experience and stuff. The first lights and sirens call that I ran, funny enough, was a structure fire, and I didn't ask for anything or anybody. I just got to the call and showed up there by myself. But if I were to get dispatched to a structure fire now, it would be completely and totally different.
Yeah. Now, you're the lead investigator assigned to the case. Walk me through how you get notified. Obviously, the first responding officers are already heading there. And do you get notified immediately about it? Or how does that process work for communication to you as the lead investigator?
Hialeah and the big major departments are quite efficient at relaying information and getting assets and resources to scenes. So within, I believe the call came in shortly after 10 o'clock at night. Within 10, 15 minutes after the officer's arrival, my phone was already ringing. And my sergeant at the time was already saying, start heading this way. We have, a mass casualty event. And you're the lead. Now, as a homicide guy, you expect that call. And I was already formulating a plan, getting to the call. Who am I going to want for my crime scene? Who am I going to want to take witness interviews? A major scene, homicide or a big shooting or anything like that, you're not going to do it by yourself. You're never by yourself, and that's another, believe it or not, referring back to what we were talking about earlier. What drew me to police work is that you always have somebody. You're never by yourself, and I thought that was really cool to work with people you know and you trust every day. That also endeared me to that. But getting to the scene and already formulating a plan is crucial.
So upon arrival, you get there. I mean, it's probably a chaotic scene, I assume. What's the mood amongst the officers, victims, witnesses? What's going on when you first get to the scene?
In that particular scene, believe it or not, what I remember is, and we're talking this happened 15 years ago, what I remember is that it was very, very quiet. For the amount of, carnage, for the amount of death that had occurred, everybody was very, very quiet, and the crime scene was cordoned off, the yellow tape, just like you see on TV. Everybody was doing their job, but it was very, very still because it was a sad scene. I mean, 4 people lost their lives. That's back then. It's a big deal now, but it was a much bigger deal 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So everybody was very calm. Everybody was very quiet. Everybody was very, I don't want to say matter of fact, but they knew that there was a job to do, and there wasn't that jovial camaraderie. There was no jokes or anything about that. It was very serious. Yeah. There was definitely a depth to that scene.
So now you're on scene, and from what I gathered, from what I read about this case, the suspect is still at large.
Correct.
Meaning that you showed up to this shooting scene, but the suspect already took off. Walk me through police response to that. I mean, you got probably multiple scenes going on then at this time, right?
Multiple scenes in the aspect of 3 of the victims have been transported to the trauma center, Ryder Trauma. So that's one scene. Mm-hmm. Each victim gets their own. Is their own scene. Each victim gets their own. Has their own story to tell. Each victim has their own investigative, and probative. Goodness, I'm forgetting the word. Evidence, whether it's with their clothes, whether it's what they say, whether it's their injuries. So that each one of those is a particular scene. When a victim gets transported to the hospital, obviously, they're not in a position, depending on the severity of the injury, to make a statement at that time. But you still send someone over there, and that's a task that gets assigned. You have the primary crime scene of where the shooting happened, and you have 4 victims. Each one of them deserves and gets their own special attention because they each have their own individual injuries, and each one has, I don't want to say a story to tell, but evidence of what happened to them. Mm-hmm. Right? And then layer on top of that, you have a gunman who just killed 4 people, shot 3 others, running around in a stolen car. Public safety is paramount within policing. You have a gunman running around the streets of Hialeah. I pretty much imagine that this, if I remember correctly, we pretty much cordoned off the city, and just every available person was looking for this vehicle.
So at this point, entrances, exits to the city completely closed off.
Closed off I mean, we're not doing checkpoints, but we had at the time a description of a vehicle that he fled in. So the main arteries into and out of the city, you post an officer there looking for that specific vehicle. You have other roving units in and out of the area looking for. Everybody's looking for that car, that car at that time. But again, that's not what we were doing as the homicide team and our initial response. That pretty much is a patrol function. All right, so the shift commander would be in charge of coordinating that.
So SWAT team activated?
When I believe different teams have different protocols, but I would imagine if you have an armed subject running around and it's a fresh, hot scene, I would imagine that yes, you would activate SWAT, K9, any tactical unit, anybody. When it's something like this, it's an all hands on deck, so everybody was coming.
Now, how long after arrival on scene do you get notified that the suspect is down?
Approximately 35 minutes after we're on scene, we get the call that the vehicle's been located about 7 blocks away. And there was a male who fit the description from the 911 call with a gunshot wound.
Now, was that from officers, or was that a self-inflicted?
No, it was self-inflicted.
Okay. So at this point, there's no longer a threat to the city.
Until all the pieces are put together and it's confirmed that this is the guy and he acted alone, the threat level is definitely throttled back, but you're still on alert just in case there's a police theory, the +1 theory. If you have one subject, always assume that there's a +1, that there's somebody else helping him. Something like this or that day, we were pretty confident that he acted alone.
Okay. Now, it switches from a tactical aspect to an investigative aspect, I assume now. So does that get turned over back to you guys as an extra scene for you guys to investigate?
Yes.
Where the suspect was located?
Yes. Once it was confirmed that it was just one male and that he had succumbed to his gunshot wound, and it was self-inflicted, I dispatched a detective to handle that scene, because now that in and of itself, that's its own death investigation. Mm-hmm. All right. I mean, they're obviously connected, but that scene needs documentation, needs photographs, needs inventories, needs to be treated just as the one that we were doing back at the restaurant. So yeah, I dispatched a detective over there. I stayed on scene and continued to coordinate the assets that were given to me then.
Now, like we said earlier, you have multiple scenes going on, and you just got one more scene added onto this. Mm-hmm. What are the steps to putting the pieces together as to what happened? Or first, I want to go through your mind. What's going through your mind? I mean, you have the victims at the hospital. You have the scene that you're currently on at the restaurant, and then you have where the suspect was located. Were you able to piece together what happened pretty quickly in your head, or was there kind of more steps? Did everybody do a little huddle up to kind of share information as to what went down?
Oh, and on a major scene, like the Yoyito shooting stuff, you're in constant communication with all of your detectives, and they're relaying information to you. You're relaying information to your higher ups in command. We would break down and huddle up, to use your phrase, every 30, 45 minutes, just to make sure that there's nothing, just to make sure that everybody's informed and then they're on the same page. And to make sure, and my job as the lead is to make sure that everybody still maintains focused on the mission. Because granted, like like I said, once it was established that the shooter acted alone and he was no longer a threat, people tend to back off. People tend to, okay, now there's no arrest. Unfortunately, there's no arrest. There's no anything. This pretty much started and ended today, but we still have a job to do to produce a quality investigative product for the victims and their families, because we need to try to answer as many questions, and you can never answer every question, but through the investigative and documentation process, we try to answer as many questions as we can, but unfortunately, there's some questions that never get answered.
Now, walk me through the process. I mean, or walk me through what you guys were able to piece together. What exactly happened in that scene?
Well, based on the surviving, one of the surviving witnesses' statements, the intended target was married to our subject, and they had split up about a week ago. And she had left the house and had moved in with one of the victims who survived, who gave us this information. But the subject had been stalking, had been harassing the victim incessantly throughout that whole time. And unfortunately, it came to a critical head on that night, on that evening.
So this was a targeted attack.
We know that the intended target was his wife. Now, why he went into the restaurant and started shooting only females in a misogynistic type of rage, and walked by male patrons and didn't even address or come in contact with them, and just went after females, to this day still a mystery. I couldn't tell you.
I think I watched the surveillance video of it too. So he walks into the restaurant, walks past male individuals, and goes for women that were working at the restaurant. And these women he did not know, he had no relationship with. There was the intended target, and then there was the other women. But however, he walked past the male individuals. And but you guys were not able to understand why he targeted specifically the women.
To this day, 15 years later, I have no idea why. Yeah, and again, that's one of those questions that will never get answered, because he took those answers with him.
Yeah, and this kind of leads us to another part I want to talk about is domestic violence and domestic cases. Matter of fact, most of my cases I've worked so far in our office have been domestic related, or most of my arrests have been domestic related. And you've worked special victims as a detective in the city of Hialeah. From your knowledge and experience, what can you tell me about domestic violence cases and the types of challenges that they present and types of dangers that they present?
Whenever you interject emotion into anything, it tends to increase the threat and danger level. People do things off the cuff and are emotional about a myriad of things. And when you're in an emotional state, you don't want to be told what to do. You don't want to be told, sit here. The last thing in the world you want to be told is given orders by your partner or by a complete and total stranger who happens to be wearing a uniform. Back in the academy, they hit us over the head repeatedly with the fact that a domestic violence call is quite possibly the most dangerous call you will respond to, because emotion clouds judgment, and people, when they're in a fragile emotional state, whether they're hurt, whether they're angry, don't tend to think things through and act off the cuff, or act in inexplicably.
You bring up something very that I think every law enforcement officer can relate to. I think every academy you go to, they do talk about how dangerous it is for domestic-related calls. And so it's not just dangerous for the victims and the people involved, but it's also dangerous for the responding officers. Actually, I just had someone I went to academy with die in the line of duty from responding to a domestic-related call as well. So it does present not just danger for the people involved, but also the responding officers. Now, how can departments, or I guess after this specific incident, how did Hialeah change the way they do things, or did they change anything at all? Did they learn anything from that, or was there, I guess, what was the aftermath from the specific incident?
With respects to changing domestic violence responses or domestic violence reporting, we in the city were pretty what's what I'm looking for, progressive when it came to that. We had on staff victim advocates. We had a robust domestic violence unit. We were in constant communication with the safe spaces and the help organizations that were there, with the state attorney's offices. We were very involved with those organizations and those people. So if our victim would have reached out, nobody knows, but there are continue to be services, and there is a way out towards safety. With respects to how that shooting affected the city of Hialeah, the sheer mass and scope of the death in that scene, it opened up the whole mental. It was the beginning of the mental health aspect for first responders and for officers. We were given the opportunity to. This was before EAP and all a bunch of stuff that's very prevalent now. Given the opportunity to speak with counselors, to speak with people, to mental health professionals, to make sure that we were okay after witnessing and seeing the scene, and that's only gotten better and more prevalent now. I mean, I know that the city now has mental health peer counselors, guys in uniform who are certified to talk to guys confidentially, of course, if they're feeling something or if they see something that may affect them. It's better to let it out in the open with somebody who is wearing the same uniform than take it home and share it with a partner or your wife or your husband and stuff like that, who it's very hard for the layperson to be able to relate to the damage and the trauma that victims go through. And as an investigator and as a police officer, you take some of that trauma with you. You have to. You can't just leave it alone. I mean, it's the greatest job in the world, but it has its moments.
Talking about victims and domestic violence, and these are a lot of complex topics, and I don't think law enforcement or any one specific agency will ever have a full grasp on how to work it perfectly. We're not perfect, and no one agency is perfect. But I think one thing I like that you talked about is the partnerships that we develop with victim advocates, and so I guess how can we continue to move towards that trajectory to keep improving, not be perfect, but to keep improving for the victims, for the first responders, and for the investigators that work the cases, and the families that are involved.
by maintaining a level of involvement. A lot of these organizations have monthly meetings, peer support groups. There's trainings out there that deal specifically with stress and trauma recognition. It takes some courage for an officer to sign up for these things, because basically you're admitting that there is something wrong or that there's something that needs to come out from within you. But yeah, just maintain involvement. Victim advocates are crucial to just, once a case is closed, subject is arrested and stuff, victims kind of tend to be forgotten until court, which may be a year or two down the road. It would be definitely beneficial to keep not an overbearing line of communication, but just once in a while a reach out, a phone call, a visit, saying, "Hey, how are you doing? Anything we can do for you?" Those type of things, especially when dealing with children and stuff. That's I feel that would definitely be important.
Yeah. Last question. What lessons do you think the public can take away from cases like this?
If your domestic situation deteriorates to the point where you have to leave, that's pretty much a good sign to get us or others involved. Don't try to mitigate it by yourself, or try to run away by yourself, because you're not alone. You're not by yourself. There are avenues of support. There are avenues of help out there. But you got to ask for it. We're not clairvoyant. We can't knock on everybody's door and say, "Hey, is everything okay? Are you guys good?" and go to the next house. If the public, or if those in need reach out to us, we're more than willing to reach out back.
Thank you so much, Ozzy, for being with us. I think cases like this are a reminder of the tragedy, the loss that victims, along with first responders, go through from working these scenes. Thank you so much for being with us at investiNate, where we break down true cases by the investigators who work them. If you like this podcast, make sure you subscribe, like and follow, and share with somebody that you think would enjoy it.